Vauban, an insane crowd control Warframe. I have spent so much time with Vauban and it's definitely one of the best Warframes you can ever have. This is my Vauban besieging build. If you came here just to check out the build, you can refer to the timestamp shown on your screen right now. In this video, we will be going through some of Vauban's abilities, the build itself, and some combos that you can pull off. Before we actually start, if you guys found this video informative, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of content. Without further ado, let's get started. His first ability is Tesla Nervos. It basically spawns these rollers that can inflict electricity damage on enemies. When this ability is fully charged, you will summon 4 rollers instead of 1. This is a very simple yet effective crowd control ability because it doesn't just stagger enemies, it also helps with condition overload because it deals electricity damage and it is an element after all. Condition overload increases 120% melee damage per status type afflicting the enemy, so this is going to give you a little head start on your melee damage. Next is going to be Minelayer. This ability is very similar to Ivara's Quiver or Korra's Venari. You can swap through different mines and grenades by just tapping and then summoning that specific orb or mine by holding down your key. There are 4 types of mines, but I only want to focus on Tether and Fletchette orb. First of all, let's talk about Tether Coil. It's actually very self-explanatory. When you drop down the Tether Coil, it will try to latch onto an enemy and then it will drag them towards the mine. This is like a mini Vortex grenade, but it just drags enemies 2 by 2. Although this may not be so significant when you compare to other Vauban abilities, it does do a good job when pulling enemies from afar. However, it is affected by line of sight, so that's a big drawback of course. Let's move on to the Fletchette orb. This is actually a very useful mine. When you drop down the Fletchette orb, it will shoot randomly in all directions, dealing puncture damage. And this puncture damage we're talking about has a 50% crit chance and a 2 times crit multiplier. When enemies come close to the Fletchette orb, it will shoot them with high accuracy. Not everyone knows about this, so definitely tell your friends about it. The damage that comes from Fletchette orb also scales from enemy level. I don't really have an accurate demonstration for this because there's way too many factors to consider when you try to do damage testing. But all you need to know is that the higher the enemy level, the more damage it will deal. Moving on, let's talk about Bastille. This is a very useful, in fact, the very reason why people use Vauban. When you just tap 4, it will summon this Bastille. What it does is that it creates a field that can disable enemies and immobilizing them. The enemies that are trapped by Bastille also gets their armor removed, but slightly. Another thing is that when you are standing inside of Bastille, you will also get a 1000 armor bonus. Your teammates will also get this same buff and it synergizes so damn well with Arcane Guardian. And not to forget Arcane Tanker. But this video is not all about Bastille, we are more interested in Vortex. By holding down the ability key, you will launch a Vortex grenade. You will also convert all existing Bastilles into Vortexes. It is actually very self-explanatory. When you have a Vortex grenade laid down on the floor, it will pull in all loot pickups and enemies as well into the Vortex. The enemies that are pulled in by Vortex will also get magnetic procs. This is again useful when you have condition overload. I will explain more about this after we talk about the build. As you can see, this is my Booban Prime build. You don't even need a single forma. First of all, let's take a look at the range mods because they are more important in this build. We have Overextended, Augur Reach, Stretch, and Cunning Drift. All 4 existing range mods in the game will give you a maximum amount of 280% power range. It is one of the most important stats for Vauban because we need as much coverage as possible for our Vortex or our Bastille. Moving on, we have the power efficiency mods, which are Fleeting Expertise and Streamline. This should be very self-explanatory. You don't want to waste too much energy while casting all your abilities. I realized that if you don't have almost maximum power efficiency, you are going to run into a lot of energy issues. You can either swap Streamline for a Primed Flow, or you can just leave it as is. Next, we have Primed Continuity and Augur Message. It is to counter the negative power duration from fleeting expertise and to give us a slight power duration boost. The reason why we don't need too much power duration is because we can already stack vortexes upon each other by using Repelling Bastille. This augment has two uses. Your Bastille will have a knockdown effect every 4 seconds, and for Vortex, it enables stacking. That means you can have your Vortex to last as long as possible by just throwing one into another. Finally, for the aura slot, you can use whatever you want. I went with Energy Siphon is because I needed the extra energy regeneration. I find myself to be spamming a lot of the abilities when I'm playing with Vauban, so I definitely needed the Energy Siphon mod. And that is pretty much it for the build. Finally, I do want to cover two very good synergies you can use. First of all, it's going to be a more mainstream one. Basically, you want to throw down a Vortex at any spot that you want, and then some Fletchette orbs, and finally Tesla Nervoses. As you can see in this clip right now, I have a lot of crowd control. I'm not just pulling in enemies from afar, but also pickups. So everything is gathered up in one spot. And then the cool thing about the Fletchette orb and the Tesla Nervoses is that, first of all, it can deal some damage. Although it may not kill the enemies, it does apply puncture and electricity on the enemies, meaning it's going to synergize with a condition overload, and as well as Vauban's passive, which basically increases your damage against the enemies that are incapacitated or unable to move, including the ones that are infected by Vortex. You will get a 25% damage increase against these targets, which is definitely very useful. When you combine that condition overload and the insane CC that we have right now, you are going to have an easy experience cheesing through these enemies. Another combo that I really like to use on defense missions is this. Throw your Vortex and have it land on the ceiling if possible. The best example I can show you right now is on Hydron. When you have Vortexes up on the ceiling of Hydron, just bask in the glory of your Vortex, sucking up all the enemies into it. You can further enhance this experience by throwing down some tether coils. Although it might be distracting to your gameplay, it does look really cool. And that's pretty much it for the build video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys found this video informative, then be sure to leave a like, write a nice comment, and please consider subscribing. If you want to support this channel, then be sure to check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. And finally, I have a bonus clip for you guys. This happened right after I finished gathering all the necessary footage for this video. It is just so glorious. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in another video. Goodbye.